Let's go on down to. We're back to the University of Texas. Joe, probably and arguably the biggest or most talked about spring game happened this Saturday with the University of Texas because Arch Manning went off. He went 17 to 21, 343 and 3 touchdowns. And then you had a big man touchdown. Anytime a fat man catches an interception and runs in for a pick six,
it's best part of football.
Best part of football. Okay. I thought Texas looked pretty good all around. Okay. Like when we're talking about a team, like, hey, and the biggest question for Texas is obviously going to be, can you come into the SEC and win? Now, they still got to answer that question. But I do think that they showed something more to me than what the starters would ever show. Hey, they got really good quality depth. I thought their running back room looked really good, Joe. The Baxter kid getting a couple of running some dudes over, how physical they were. Ryan Wingo, the freshman, catching the long bomb. He may start, he may play, but if he doesn't, that's your depth piece. That is your second string dude. You're very talented there, along with DeAndre Moore, who I thought had a really good connection with Arch Manning, which, albeit a Manning, find somebody that no one's talking about and make him a household name with connections. And I thought that their O-line played well, especially in the running game. The biggest concern for me, all right, with the University of Texas. So, Joe, let's rewind the clock, 6 months ago or 4 months ago when we were talking about them in the playoff. And me and you both came on the show and said that Washington would eat them alive with their secondary. They were 93rd in the country in passing yards allowed. Joe, that secondary looked horrid again. They have not gotten better at that position group. The question becomes, if you're the same secondary coming into this conference, Carson Beck, all these other quarterbacks that you're going to face will have really good days against you. If your secondary is going to play like that. So I think all in all, at every position group, they looked really good. Mm-hmm. I thought in their secondary, they were very, very, very shaky. But all in all, a really good day for the University of Texas.
There were way too many unencumbered guys that were able to fly up the sideline. Way too many. First team, right. Second team. That is absolutely still a concern. And I think that they should probably and will be a team with the portal going on right now that will probably be in the market for DBs. I'm blanking on the Arizona kid's name. There's a kid that's been in the portal for a minute now that I bet that they're trying to pick up the phone and get him to come. Or heck, I'd take a flyer on Cormani McLean and see if he might not be ready to play right away, but at least try to get some 5-star guys into that room. I think that the depth at offensive line, defensive line, and at running back, and maybe even at receiver is tremendous. It's very underrated and a lot of credit. Quarterback. And at quarter, yeah, the third and fourth string guys were dishing too. It was like, what? Where are these guys coming from? Yeah. Really good job of forward thinking recruiting by Steve Sarkisian to bring in all these guys. I'm not saying that they're Georgia, but gives like a Georgia vibe for how deep the roster is. I will say though, and of course I'm going to stir the shit with this. I think that
here it comes.
I think that Quinn Ewers has the one bad throw and he looked fine. His typical Quinn Ewers performance where it's average and it's not great and it's just his one bad game. And as I said when we did our quarterback rankings, he'll have one of those and then the next week he'll show up and he'll explode and he'll have a crazy game and he'll completely cook a secondary. He is very volatile. All I'm saying, and I said this to you pre-show, he is injury prone. He has gotten banged up before. Wait. You said this, and then we talked about this example. There is a realistic world where we could have a Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe type of a situation. I am not trying to predict an injury. I'm not trying to be that guy. But if Arch looked that good, and he's much steadier than Quinn Ewers, all right, which he was in this game, there's a real shot that this happens. And what direction do you go in if that does happen?
All right. Okay. It's so funny. On Wednesday, you said that there were times that he is the most athletic quarterback on the field, or talented or gifted. But I don't see. Here's the thing that you and I probably differ on the most. I don't care how talented he is. I would rather a better decision maker in college football than someone who's more talented. Okay, and there was an argument about Anthony Richardson. Okay, Quinn, Joe, and it's kind of to some extent a DJU thing. At what point do you look at him and say, why isn't the decision making getting better? There's no reason. You got to start hammering home on him when it comes to why can't that question be answered? And again, I will remind everybody, for anybody that wants, Joe, he could do that in the Big 12 and get away with it. As someone who's been in this league and covered this league for almost now a decade, I promise you, you cannot get away with those stupid decisions that he did, not only just Saturday, but he's done in his career. God forbid he does that versus a Kentucky, and then watch and see what happens. Because when you do that week in, week out, I don't like seeing. I don't like a lot of. I hate the inconsistency. How about that? I hate the inconsistency we get from him. Let me flip to Arch because you brought him up. I watched Arch play. Joe, I don't really go to a lot of high school games. I saw Arch probably 7 times in the last 2 years of him in high school. Mm-hmm. And me and you had this conversation. What did I always tell you? He's extremely talented in reference to his knowledge of the game, his footwork, his mechanics, all flawless. What you would expect from a guy in the Manning family. But the discussion that you and I always had was, I don't think that he's physical enough to play right now. Well, I was watching that game yesterday, Joe, and he's bigger. He looks stronger. He looks more in command. He's maturing. And that's what you need to see from a kid in developing. Joe, he's more talented than Quinn Ewers by a long shot.
Well, okay. I don't think that's the right wording.
Joe, hold on. Decision making has to be a talent trait.
It is. It is okay. Absolutely is, and I understand.
He's already a better decision maker than Quinn Ewers.
His
football IQ is bigger than Quinn Ewers. Can you debate that?
No, because I haven't seen Arch play enough. We have one spring game, so I'm not gonna dive deep on that. Here's a fair take, okay? Because I hate getting too hot takey with spring games, is what I said in the open. I think that Arch Manning is going to have a better Texas career than Quinn Ewers. Simple as that. And the evidence was showed there. Any doubt on if he could capably start this year, I think, was removed. Is there still work that needs to be done? Yes, absolutely. Is he going to start over Quinn Ewers? No, that's not going to happen. But do I think that in year 3, when he's ready to take over, that he's going to play really well and that the rest of the roster is probably going to be built up around him? As I talked about, the depth on that roster is fantastic. Their most realistic shot to win a national title is not with Quinn Ewers. It is going to be with Arch Manning next year in 2025.
He'd be the first Manning to do it. I agree. And it brings up a question that you've asked in the past. Why not have them compete for the starting spot?
When I brought that up, I was kind of trying to be salacious, deliberately salacious.
I know what you were trying to do. You're trying to get them clicks. That's what you was trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. I was no. That's what I'm saying. I was deliberately trying to be
all right. Well, now come back to the point that you made that might now be right, Joe. You cannot.
Be you know what?
Maker in college football to win it all. You cannot be. I don't give two Rudy Poos how big his arm is. Screw his arm strength. But Joe, he's going into his senior year. At some point, he's got to know he can't make that throw.
Look, there is a reason why arm strength is important, because if you can deliver the ball quicker and into tighter windows, it is impossible to defend. And when he's been on, he has made throws that are really difficult to cover. But look, I will say, I mean, I made a ridiculous statement back in February saying that it's BS that Sark at least isn't allowing them to compete. And I think there's a lot more tangible, like physical evidence now that we saw him play that he's a lot, not that he's good enough to beat out Quinn Ewers and that he would beat out Quinn Ewers, but they're much closer than people think that they are. That's the real only takeaway from that performance is that they are, he's right up on him.
Now, Quinn did only play 2 series, but the reason that it's so bad is because of the decision that he made.
Yeah. That's why it's kind of hard to like compare the two. Is the 2 series he played were he is one of those quarterbacks who I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt in this conversation. He's one of those guys. He takes a little bit of time to get going.
Yeah.
He did it against Texas. He did it against Washington. He did it against Alabama. It takes him like a little bit to get going.
You said he did it against Texas. You mean
Alabama, Oklahoma, and Washington is what I meant.
I agree to that extent. If he finds a rhythm, he can be deadly. But it's just such bad decision making, though, Joe, that bothers the crap out of me. You have all this talent around you, and Joe, take the sack. Live for another day. Like, I mean, it is the hardest thing for young quarterbacks to understand. There's nothing wrong with taking a sack and punting the football. Nothing. When you have a defense like that, you can fight to live another day. You're not going to score on every possession. Now, there may be times where your defense is off a day and you got to pick it up. But I hate the decision making. Let's get to Arch very quickly because we got to move on. Your thoughts on his performance of the day, though?
Oh, I thought everything I've said leading in this whole conversation, I think sticks. I think that he could start on most teams right now. You know, I think that he is good enough that if he had decided to transfer, which it didn't seem like he was going to do,
start on half of the SEC teams right now.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.